Hired designers not as a consultant but for like in-house designers, do you think they wouldn't have been able to observe this
Had
gap?
our own value, and our own value was delivering value to the customer, not satisfying a CEO.
In-house service designer because you can't move on to the next project. You're still hold on to your ex. Thank you for visiting us again. I'm Junaiza Niazi, author of Navigating Service Design. And joining me is the incredible Sharan Longani, an aspiring service designer. Together, we are on a mission to connect you with the brightest minds practicing service design. In today's musing, we have Nikoo Javid, who is not only a service and experience designer, but also an olfaction and perfumes researcher from Iran. Nikoo's expertise revolves around co-creating, orchestrating, and co-deploying solutions. Her impactful journey includes being a TEDx speaker at the University of Tehran to coaching design teams, steering the creation of new products, and providing training for in-house design teams. Thank you, Nikoo, for joining us.
Thank you, Janeza. I should say hello to everyone who is watching us.
Nikoo, before we get into the more serious conversations, Sharan and I were very curious to know, do you still practice as a perfumes researcher?
Yes, as a researcher, yes. Actually, my love for perfumes and scents brought me to a space that I wondered more about how we feel and how perceive our feelings, like smell and olfaction. So I was so curious to see how does our body work and how does it affect our experiences.
That's very interesting. So did that push you into more of an experienced designer? Like, was that a trigger for you to start exploring service design or get to know about the field?
Actually, not this. I come from a background of engineering and then MBA. So I was working in management consultancy industry. And that was the point that I understood that there are many solutions, size or business, but there are isolated as islands, and it needs a glue to stick all of them to each other and create an integrated solution that could work for everyone, like different stakeholders of a company, of an institution, or a movement even. So it was the reason that I pursued learning service design.
So I'm also aware that in your learning journey, you've had a lot of key mentors and people who had a huge hand in the way you built your service design career, like Sare and even Roger Vanderhyde. So, can you share with us, is it important to have a mentor when you're growing your service design career?
Yeah, as a beginner, I talked to Saleh, who is a really amazing human being, as we said. And he helped me a lot to find my starting point in service design. He was practicing service design for a while when I asked him to help me for my thesis in MBA. And that was a point that I had known that I want to start my career or even learning path actually in service design. And he helped me to find a relevant start point, relevant to my background and beneficial for my future. So afterwards, we had many collaborations during the next years. Even when I co-founded a service design agency and he had his own, we were not competitors, we were more friends. And we knew that we as small service design agencies help each other to make awareness in the market about service design and service design practices actually. And Roger van der Heide, yes. When I thought more seriously about expanding my experiences in global network and in global market actually, I reached out to him, and he had a series of very thoughtful mentorship and he helped me a lot to adjust my mindset to this growth and to get better decisions for my career path. He helped me to understand what is going on about service design in different spots in the world and what could be the best next step for me. So I want to say that the people who are professionals with loads of experiences in service design are great mentors for us to imagine our career path and get the best decisions for ourselves.
When you reached out to your mentor, how did you self yourself as a mentee? Like, what do you think um, inspired them in a way to take you up or take you under their wing?
Yeah, I could say that questions are the key. Clear questions. And sometimes we might have big issues in our minds, but asking them as vague general questions could not help the mentor to help us, actually. So in both cases that you named as my mentors, and they are my great mentors, I went to them with clear questions, but wide enough questions. Not a yes or no question. Like, I want to do this, I have this goal, and what could be the best steps for me to take to reach to this goal? Or what are the things that I am not considering? Could you please tell me about what I am not considering? Or how long do you think that it would take for me with this background of blah 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 and the CV to do that? Or what are the things that I should prepare myself for? Or what should I learn to be able to do that thing that I want to do? These are, I guess, clear enough and good questions to start a conversation. Like when you want to do an expert interview, you cannot ask vague, big questions. It is better for you to give them like 3 scenarios and ask their feedback about those scenarios. And during those feedback and by analyzing those feedback, you can get the key points. And it worked for me to ask mentorship.
Yeah, I've heard this phrase which says the mentor chooses you and you don't get a choice as a mentee. So it looks like we need to ask the right questions to essentially get the mentor to realize that, hey, if I add value to this person, there is a
Yeah.
possibility that this particular designer could grow into something wonderful. I think that's the trigger for a mentor to choose you,
Yeah,
right?
I guess so. And I want to add something about questions that are the key, I guess, in design projects, in communications, even when we want to self-monitor, we need good questions to ask ourselves. And I just wanted to emphasize on this.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Even in your MBA bit, I had a question that I wanted to like share from my experience. When we work in in-house spaces, when you say that you are a strategist or a person with an MBA degree, there is a lot more years for a strategic decision to be made or a KPI based decision to be made versus when you have a service design or a design background, because there is an assumption that designers don't understand business, right? So why did you strategically pick a service design tag than a strategist or a business analyst tag?
Actually, there are 2 main reasons. The first one is there is always a gap between defining a strategy and deploying it. And what reinforces this gap is the fast changes in the world, in the context. You set the strategy, you want to align all your company and team to deploy it, and then the context is changed and you need to change this strategy. So here comes the notion of agility to set a strategy. The gap between strategy and action is, I see this as a reason of having shallow organizations, actually.
What does that mean?
Like the context is changed after 2
Okay.
years of setting that strategy, but the company is not responding to that changes. Why? Because sometime 2 years ago, our CEO had said that we should do this, and there is no other new thought from the CEO that are delivered to us. So we have to do this because we want to get our salary at the end of the month. You know why
Right.
design is amazing, even in a strategic level.
Right, right. So this is also making us think that there was this excerpt from the book Navigating Service Design that I had written from the chapter A Day in the Life of a Service Designer. So Sharon and I, we both are in-house service designers, and we relate to this particular excerpt. It says the beauty of working as an in-house service designer is that you have access to different departments and a wealth of information to learn from each department and stakeholder. This gives designers exposure to dealing with multiple people with different frames of references and perspectives on what design can offer. But we wanted to learn from you, since you've worked as a consultant as well as an in-house designer. Is it different for when you're looking at it from an outside in approach versus working within a service design space?
Sure, I should say there is a huge difference, actually.
Okay.
I was engaged in a project that was for an insurance company. They wanted to introduce a new insurance product to the market, and they didn't have an integrated online touch point for selling and actually performing the insurance claims. So our job as a consultant team was to actually help the insurance company to define the insurance product that was a digital appliances insurance, like insurance for your laptop or your mobile phone and stuff.
Oh.
And in that way, we went so deep in customer needs and behaviors, and we understood a big gap between a customer viewpoint to insurance and the insurer to the insurance. Like the company was seeing the insurance process as a sales process. Like even the wireframe of the website or application they wanted from us was describing a sales process when we got the brief from them. And we mentioned this gap, and to make sure that they understand that their customers need their insurance after the sales. Actually, they buy insurance to use it whenever they are in need for that. But if the insurance company see this as a sales process with like 10 or 20% of loss of profit because of supplying the insurance actually and paying back to the customer, it couldn't work. It is not a relationship between customer and the insurance company. So we came to a wireframe of the website to help the customer to find their lost mobile phones or to get back their data that they had on their lost mobile phone, and very new ideas to enrich their insurance product. We could help the insurance company to see the reality through the lens of customers, through the lens of their representatives and even their own employees. Actually, we were not impacted by the goals of the company. We had our own value, and our own value was delivering value to the customer, not satisfying a CEO, not satisfying a manager,
So, in this scenario, had the company hired designers not as a consultant but for like in-house designers, do you think they wouldn't have been able to observe this gap?
Yes, sure. They could have, actually. But we as outsiders in that company had more benefits. Like what? Like we were not working only in insurance industry. We had performed projects in 14 different industries. So we had experiences from other industries that could be combined in that industry. And we had some overview about how things works in other more agile and up-to-date industries like IT, or some more human-centered industry like healthcare. And we could blend all of that viewpoints in our experience that we used to deliver that project.
Had the company, because the insurance is for digital products, and that's something that changes very quickly, right? Technology, features, and all of that. So would having an in-house designer make more sense, because you're constantly sort of working on that sphere? There's constant research to remain up to date and relevant, as opposed to like a consultant, because there's a limited time frame for which you're going to work with the company.
Yes, it is a great passage to talk about the in-house service design role. I guess, yes, the in-house service designers have a great opportunity to stay with the service and to participate in developing this through different and various iterations of the service. You need a service designer to sustain your service. I guess you, as a company, you need an in-house service designer and at least one in-house service designer. The bigger the company is, the more different the services are. The company needs a team or teams of service design for each service they deliver. So yes, it is the opportunity that in-house service designers have to get in touch with the service and with customers in the long run, and also to keep connected to the employees of the company, actually the people who are delivering that service. You can have daily access to them, while you do not have that access much easily when you work as a consultant. When I work as a consultant, I spend, I guess, maybe 60% of the project time to communicate with the client, to prepare them for the next step, to do reports of the previous steps, and to educate them for the work that we are doing, to prepare them to understand what is happening to them, and to prepare them to be able to use the outcomes of the projects that we deliver. And I was actually so furious about this at one point. Really, it's so energy consuming, and however communicative person that you are, it takes a great effort. But it was at that point that my friend, the co-founder of our agency, told me that she had read an article by a founder of a great design agency in England, and the author had said that it is 80% of the work of service design. At that point, yeah, I was okay. I am happy now.
Yeah, you made a beautiful point though. You said that a in-house service designer is essentially required to manage the service. But the moment there is an innovation or a change management that's required, the in-house service designer's voice is not strong enough because they will have to challenge the organization's business model or the KPI, which not many people would have that,
Courage.
yeah, the control to push for that change. Versus if it's an external service designer, the success rate of an innovation or change management project is way higher, and it's better for a service designer in house to focus more on the service auditing, iterating or improving an existing service. Is that the right understanding?
It is a wonderful catch. Actually, I can mention an experience where I was, and I am still, in-house service designer. To address your point, I'm working with Huron Vocal Ensemble, which is a classical singing vocal ensemble actually. And the point there was they are singing in languages like German or Italian, which is not so popular in my country. People in my country speak Persian. So, and the music, the Western classical music is not in the DNA of my nation. We have our own traditional and classical music. So, despite the attempts and passion of the performance of the ensemble, the audiences could not get the most from their performances. At first, in the first performance, I went there to help my friends who were performing, and I went to backstage to see if they are okay. But in designer lenses, when I watched the performance, I mentioned that gap, and I talked to the people in ensemble that we could do much better. So we wanted to bridge this gap between the audience and their perception of the performance with what was happening on the stage. So as in-house designer in this ensemble, I have experienced that it is a great opportunity that you have access to the customers' data. And I had many interviews with customers. We had like a feedback surveys, and I could see the customers' affections after each performance, and I could actually measure their satisfaction, and I could measure even their reactions and how do they respond to the contents that we have added. How do they respond to the images that are played via the video projector on the wall? How do they respond to the silence that we had put between the music tracks, that people could digest what they had heard or they had seen? And every detail in that experience was designed and monitored well, because I was there in the whole process and I was engaged in actually applying what has been designed. It was a great opportunity. But after doing this for 6 performances, I thought that I might be surrounded by the ideas of the ensemble and my own viewpoints. So I asked one of my friends who is also a designer. He joined us, and he had participated as an audience in 2 of the performances, so he knew what we were talking about. And he brought some fresh ideas about audience's needs, about the integrity between the touch points and the experience, and many details. And that was at that point that I understood how valuable it is asking help from consultant service designers, even when you are playing your role as an in-house service designer. It was a point that I thought that it could be a great combination, this collaboration between in-house service designers and consultant service designers who could help each other, and each of them has got their own values. I mean, they bring different values to the organization or to the team, and they have got their own opportunities to help the team, like having access to fresh data, having access to customers, having access to the employees or to the performers. These are great opportunities for in-house service designers and having a long-time relationship with the organization. But on the other hand, a consultant service designer who could help with an outside-in outlook through the issues and experiences, and could help with zooming out.
As a service designer, it's a little difficult for us to feel like we have submitted a project because it's always ongoing. For example, for a UX designer, we have a submission, an output is given out, you feel satisfied that it's closed. But for a service designer, our projects and problem pain points are always in an open statement.
Yeah.
So do you, as when you're looking at it from an outside in lens, do you get that satisfaction that the project has been closed, or do you have that inquisity or FOMO, if I may say, that what happened to the project after you guys have proposed it, or do you go and check back in? What is that feeling that you have when you're a consultant and looking from outside in?
Yeah, actually, tough question. Actually, I have that FOMO. Like, I always want to get back and see what happened, because it is precious to me to see that the ideas are implemented. But the bad news is, whenever I get back, I see that many things are changed. And for the first times that I had this experience, I was like offended. And afterwards, I understood that, hey, the context is changing, and the requirements in that organizations are. So it is an opportunity for the in-house service designers to participate in that change. That is inevitable. But as a consultant, sometimes you can hardly mention a project that you had performed years ago, because it is changed as much that you yourself even cannot know it.
Yeah, I've often, even as an in-house service designer, I have felt that if you're giving a strategy, you have to see it through. The moment you submit and step back, there are different lenses with which that service could be modified or re-looked at, because KPIs change, different stakeholder, KRAs change. So even as a in-house service designer, any project I pick up, I have to be in it from end to end, and even after some time we have to go back and audit it. So there is no project closure that I get. So I've been trying to figure out what is a closure even for an in-house service designer, because you can't move on to the next project. You're still hold on to your X and you're still moving on to your new one. It's so difficult to move on to a new project as an in-house service designer as well.
There is a no divorce word in in-house service.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe now I'm thinking that we might define some steps or some closure points, not to the project, but to our own takeaways. Like, every iteration could count as a closure, like what we have created in that iteration, what have been the impacts or outcomes, or more easily, outputs, and what is the change that is made in this iteration. And that's okay. As an in-house service designer in Huron Vocal Ensemble, I did three iterations actually, for 3 different performances. And in each iteration, I can address that what changes that we made and what was the result. And I guess it could be a closure to that iteration, and it is a stop point, and then we restart. So you can just identify it as a closing point.
Oh, that's an interesting suggestion. I would love to try this out. I'll definitely let you know. But this is a very interesting suggestion. I've never thought of it from this lens, but this is definitely something I would love to test out and see if I'm getting that satisfaction of, okay, this is done. I can check on it back a little later. So, yeah, thank you for that suggestion.
Like you mentioned, there were certain gaps that you identified within the performance for your specific audience, and you made certain changes in the experience to address those. So can you just give me an example of one of these changes or iterations that you made?
Like in the first performance, that was an Italian repertoire performed by 3 singers and a pianist as an accompanist. There were like 20 pieces, 20 music tracks performed, and at first we thought that bridging the gap of language, we need to give the audiences some translations. And we tried it as a digital brochure, and we let the audience to scan a QR code that was sticked on the wall in the venue, and they could scan it and have the brochure on their mobile phones, and they could read the translations and the original song in their mobile phone. We did a test to that, and we understood that it distracts people from the performance. So we omitted that part. We tried to substitute this with presence of a person who talks in Persian in between of the tracks. And it might be interesting to know that I was a person.
That's really interesting.
And my friends in the ensemble asked me that, you know everything about this performance and you can deliver it to the audience, so please be the person who does this host role. And I started with introducing the performance to the audiences and just reading the translations before every track that was going to be performed. And we did it in a rehearsal, not in the main performance. And in that rehearsal, we thought that the audiences could get more. It is not just a language that they are trying to get connected to. It is not just the music, but it is the history of the music. It is the reason that the ensemble had chosen those specific parts to perform. So we developed some more contents about the music, the composers, the time that this music was composed, and the reason and the meaning behind it. And it turned actually the experience from just some beautiful musics to a cultural experience. and a cultural encounter. For Italian performance, we were doing this in a regular venue, but for the next one, that was a German repertoire, and it was called Zum richtigen Tanze, if I can say it good in German. We did this performance in a German church in Tehran. And being hosted in that church gave us this opportunity to create a cultural experience, a richer cultural experience for our audiences. The refreshments, how they were welcomed at the beginning, and just seeing some real German people there who are talking to them somehow in Persian and English, and they were helping them to sit in the venue and wait for the performance to get started. And we also talked about some German philosophers and what they say about art and the music. It was a whole cultural package then, after 2 iterations.
It's really fascinating. You also mentioned that you measured viewer satisfaction rate after making these iterations. How did you go about that?
Yes, we asked the audiences to fill in the surveys that we sent to them, and the result was amazing. Actually, the people were reflecting their emotions in those surveys, and the NPS was high. Really, I guess 85% of the audiences said that they would recommend their friends to come and see this performance, and it was a really high degree of satisfaction for us. And they mentioned also some issues that they had, and I learned that in musical performance or in art performances, venue plays a great role in the audience experience, and the greater is the venue, the greater is the experience. But it was an interesting point mentioned by some of the audiences that the performance was so catching that we could close our eyes to those little things.
Interesting service that you've had an opportunity to design, because generally when we speak to service designers, they're very limited to digital experiences. The kind of touch points that you have worked on and improved is across from seating to the space to the food and just the entire culture in itself. And it's very interesting to see how you're using a service designer lens to further improve these non-digital touch points. And it's very rare for us to have an opportunity to speak with service designers who've had this kind of an opportunity to work with these kind of services. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and journey with us. This has been a great learning opportunity for both of us, because everyone wants to be a consultant and everyone wants to start their own design agency. But listening to you, we understand how informed we need to be before we take a step like this, and what our role could be in a company and what you could essentially be helping them out with. And we still do need in-house service designers. That was a really nice learning for us as well. So it's great to see that it's a collaborative effort and not an either or between an in-house and an external service designer. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, Nikoo.
Thank you. Thank you for having this conversation. And I just wanted to mention one of my learnings through this, the last project that I mentioned, Huron Vocal Ensemble. It was a place that I really lived the notion of less is more. Because after having bunches of ideas on digital or analog touch points, we reached to that idea that the whole thing that we need to do is capture the audience's attention and put it on the performance, only the performance. no distractions. And many of ideas that we put in practice were the ideas that helps us to reduce the distractions, not adding anything. Actually, I had many ideas that I loved, but at the end, we reached to that point that the thing that we want to happen is the communication and pure communication between the audience and the performance. So less is more. We do not need to add many ideas to have it richer. We need to create a context, a good context for that. And the rest of the work will be done by the people.
It's thought-provoking because most service designers, we keep adding more touch points. Removing touch points is never spoken about. And it's very nice that you're talking about that less is more is not limited to architecture or certain art. It is also a principle that even service designers should embrace when they're designing services. Thank you so much for sharing that idea.